Hello there, YouTube. Well, I've been putting this off long enough, but this needs to be said. And I'm surprised that not more people are saying this, because it is distressing seeing the way people are acting on the internet at the moment. When Russia invaded Ukraine, there was global outrage. Pretty much every country just immediately wanted to dissociate from Russia because they invaded a sovereign nation for no good reason. And quite rightly so, the only people who backed Russia were Russia's puppet state Belarus, Russia's Middle Eastern puppet state Syria, and the horrific dictatorship North Korea. That's it. So, I was expecting much the same thing when a terrorist organisation out of nowhere fired thousands of rockets into Israel and then charged over a border that they put in place in order to brutally murder innocent children, which is largely what they've done. But this isn't what's happened. Half the world are on the side of the fictitious country of Palestine, and the other half are supposedly on the side of Israel, but every major city is filled with sickos marching with Palestinian flags. It's happening here in Britain, it's happening in the US, it's happening across Europe. Why is it that we have so many anti-Semitic terrorist lovers in this world? And let's not put too fine a point on it, that's what you fuckers are. Hamas were effectively the governing force in the Gaza Strip. Now let's ignore Palestine as an entity, because what you actually have is two separate enclaves within Israel. You have the Gaza Strip and you have the West Bank. Now the West Bank is a group of people who are administrated by a mix of Israeli forces and what they call Palestinian forces, though that is not recognised by Israel or by much of the West as a legitimate country, but they are living somewhat peaceably in a kind of stalemate situation at the moment, and the idea is that a two-state solution may be possible where the majority Arab Palestinian people and the majority Jewish and the majority Israeli population on the other side can coexist. The Gaza Strip is different. The Gaza Strip is a small strip of land between Israel and Egypt. It's Israeli territory that is controlled almost entirely by Hamas. Hamas, much like Hezbollah and ISIS and Al-Qaeda, is a terrorist organisation. And they've been blockaded into the Gaza Strip since about 2007. Because they're fucking terrorists. This isn't the people of the West Bank fighting for freedom. This isn't some movement to try to remove some imagined apartheid. This is a terrorist organisation in a completely different fucking exclave, murdering children and blowing up cities out of the blue because they hate Jewish people and the concept of a Jewish state. That's what is happening. If you don't think that's what's happening, you're a fucking moron. Watch what's happening. So, what's the solution to this? Well, first of all the idiots marching around saying that, this is Palestine finally having a freedom movement. Even if it was, it would still not be justified. Even if the West Bank was joining in on this, and the entirety of the Palestinian people were 100% behind these terrorist attacks, it would still be reprehensible and fucking disgusting. Because it's still terrorist attacks where people literally parachuted into a festival filled with teenagers and gunned them down, where they marched into border towns on the Gaza Strip and murdered babies in the fucking street, where they kidnapped young women, raped them, and then paraded them around on the backs of trucks with their legs splayed open. This is what they did. If you are flying a pro-Palestine flag and saying that this is Hamas acting to liberate and free the Palestinians, you're a fucking idiot. So, what is the solution? Well, frankly, Israel is now going to have to glass the entire fucking area and kill 2 million innocent people. That's what's going to have to happen. They have no choice. Hamas has done this. Israel has no choice because they are surrounded on all sides by barbaric, extremist nations that all follow Islamic doctrine that would love to wipe them off the fucking planet. If they do not raze Gaza to the ground, if they do not salt the earth so nothing can live again, Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and Iraq and Iran and Saudi Arabia and most of the fucking Gulf states and Egypt will all take their chance to try and poke and prod and see what they can get away with. Some of them will just outright invade, others will just fund the others. Russia, because it also wants to see the end of Israel, because Israel's an American ally, will gladly fund things, and then all of Russia's allies will get on that. You can see just by mapping out all the countries that express support for Israel and all the ones that have expressed support for Palestine. It's not Palestine, it's Hamas. But you can tell just by mapping these, which of these two selections contains all the civilized, free, democratic, and liberalized countries in the world. Which of these groups contains the only countries where you could actually live as a free citizen? It's all the ones that support Israel. The entirety of the Muslim world, every communist state and every fucking dictatorship on the planet supports Palestine. What does that tell you? If you haven't figured this out, there's a very clear line of good guys and bad guys in this. And Israel is very clearly on the side of good. It is pretty fucking black and white. Now, the sad reality is what Hamas has now done is force Israel's hand. They've now forced Israel into a position where for their own survival, to ensure that they don't get wiped off the map, they now have to wipe Gaza off the map. They have no option here, or they will be embroiled in such a huge war that it will end up going fucking nuclear. They need to cut the head off this dragon. That's what they have to do. Which means Hamas is now responsible for killing everyone in the Gaza Strip. Everyone that dies in the Gaza Strip, it was Hamas's fault. That's what's happening now. And the problem is Israel can't even try to show compassion. They can't even try to let the innocent civilians who have been living in the hellscape that is the Gaza Strip for God knows how long now to escape. They can't let them out because, first of all, a shitload of them are radicalised and anti-Israel to begin with. So importing 2 million people who hate the country and will actively destabilise it is a bad move. Nowhere else will take them. They are surrounded by countries that have the same culture, the same religion, the same language, and the same climate. And where are they sending them? Western Europe. Of course. Send them to Send them to pussy Western Europe who can't keep their fucking borders closed for longer than 10 nanoseconds. Why don't we all pile them on a barge and drop them off in fucking Swansea and see how they get along in Wales? Why don't we all pile them off into Stockholm, see how many people they can rape and how many buildings they can burn down, turning Sweden into one of the most dangerous countries in Europe when it used to be one of the safest. Because let's face it, that's what this is. This is yet another excuse to send a bunch of supposed refugees who are actually just Hamas sympathisers who are then going to start protesting, committing crime and causing a shitload of trouble across the Western world. That's what this is. It's yet another excuse for militant Islam to spread and destroy everything it fucking touches. This is the spark that creates the Third World War. Mark my word. This is the culture war that we need to fight. On one side, we have Western democracy. We have free Western democracy. For all of its flaws, for all of its stupidity, for all of its pathetic, idiosyncrasies, for all the failings of capitalism, for all the stupid woke culture nonsense we're putting up with, for all the infighting we have, at the very least there's one thing that can be said for Western democracies, and that is it is the best, most prosperous form of government and the freest form of civilization we have ever seen on the face of the fucking planet, and we need to protect it. On the other side, we have dictatorships like North Korea. We have Islamic extremists that will kill gay people on sight, kill atheists, kill apostates, and will restrict the rights of anyone and everyone, where you can't speak your mind, you can't speak out against the government, you can't blaspheme against the religion, or you're put to death. This is a significant amount of the Muslim world. And we have Russia, a totalitarian dictatorship that blows up countries because it's next to them and feels like it. And a fascist communist state in China that seems to think it can swing its dick around and control everything. And also does all the same things Russia does. And is planning to do the same thing Russia is doing right now into Ukraine, only it's going to do it to Taiwan. These are the other sides to this. These are the other countries on this side. Palestine is one of them. It is in allegiance with those fucking dickheads. So who do we side with? Do we side with the baby-killing terrorists who want to blow everything up because we don't like their imaginary sky daddy? Or do we side with the flawed but generally free, liberalised society and Western democracy that has built all of prosperity in the entire fucking world? Tricky one that is, isn't it? There are plenty of innocent people in the Gaza Strip that are going to die because of this. And they don't deserve it. There are plenty of people who identify as Palestinian for cultural or religious or tradition reasons that are embroiled in this for no reason other than they have been swept along by it. And they don't deserve to die. And the Palestinian people, they deserve to have a home. If they could reach an agreement with Israel and divide the country into two states, that would be fine. They could always go and live in one of the many, many Muslim Arab states that would welcome them gladly. The United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, they are all hugely reliant on immigration in order to fulfill their job markets. They have something like 80% of their jobs in places like Qatar and Bahrain are done by immigrants because the population is so low and the economy is growing to such an extreme degree. They could house the entire Palestinian population in places like Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. And all of those countries are sympathetic to Palestine and share the same culture, religion, language, climate. Everything would fit in well. It would be like a Brit moving to New Zealand. It would be such a similar culture there would be very, very little to complain about, frankly. And then the Israeli people would be able to actually live in peace in their own state. But that would rely on the Muslim countries, the Islamic world, accepting that the Jewish state should be allowed to exist. It would rely on a religion that claims to be the religion of peace, not being a warmongering, genocidal, maniac-filled piece of shit, and allowing the Jewish people to not be wiped out. That's what it would rely on. But it's not going to happen, because the Islamic world as a whole, the Islamic religion as a whole, is a barbaric, backwards philosophy that has not grown up into the modern times, and will not accept that other religions and other philosophies exist. That is a damning state. Oh, don't worry, Christianity was there as well. So was Buddhism. They were just as barbaric and fucking ridiculous at times, but they've grown up. They've had to accept that other faiths exist. Islam needs to do the same. I don't want people to suffer, but there is no debate here. You're either on the side of Israel or you're a fucking sicko. Simple as that. So, I said I was going to make this channel political, and now I have. That's all I'm going to say on that. Bye.